welcome to Data Cloud Global Congress 2026. I'm Lottie Westerling, Head of Product for Data Cloud Global Congress, and it's a real privilege to open what has become the leading global gathering for the digital infrastructure industry, bringing together the people designing, financing, and operating the infrastructure that underpins our digital world. Today, we welcome 6,500 attendees, 300 speakers, and 82 countries represented here in beautiful Cannes. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to download the Tokoriko app, which can be used across the event to set up meetings and form new connections. This week, we come together at a pivotal moment. The scale of demand driven by AI, cloud, and digital services is unlike anything we have seen before. And with that comes pressure on how we build, how we power, and critically, how we work together as an ecosystem. Because increasingly, success in this industry is no longer defined by individual capability, but by the strengths of our partnerships, by how quickly we can align, adapt, and deliver at scale. Importantly, I would like to thank our patron sponsors, Huawei, Schneider Electric, Siemens Energy and Vertiv, and all of our platinum, diamond, gold, and silver sponsors. Your continued support is what makes this platform and this community possible. Now, it is only fitting that we start with a conversation focused on exactly these themes: how we build better partnerships, how we design infrastructure that can evolve with the pace of innovation, and how we can ensure that the impact of what we're building is felt beyond this industry. So, I'm delighted to announce 3 leaders shaping that future. Rachel Peterson, Vice President of Data Centers at Meta, Noel Walsh, President of Cloud Operations and Innovation at Microsoft, and Nancy Novak, Chief Innovation Officer at Compass Data Centers. They will be sharing their perspectives on what great partnerships look like at hyperscale and how we can avoid locking ourselves into yesterday's infrastructure, and most importantly, what it means to be a true partner to the communities that we're operating in. Please join me in welcoming them to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Enjoying Cannes again this year, huh? I have queued up somebody in the audience to do a special treat for me. It is my son's birthday, and I want to say happy birthday, Alan, while I was on stage, so I had to start with that. I'm just pleased as peach to be here. My job is going to be really easy because these 2 brilliant women are going to be answering these really wonderful questions that I have. So first of all, I'd like for each one of you to sort of introduce yourself just very briefly and say hello.
I'll start. Hi, everybody. My name is Rachel Peterson. I lead the data center team at Meta. I've been there over 16 years now. I've been in the industry for quite a long time, and I'm just thrilled to be here along with you and Noel today. So thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm Noel Walsh, so I lead the data center infrastructure organization at Microsoft. Almost 10 years now, which have flown by, and I'm delighted to be here at Cannes today and with Rachel and Nancy.
Awesome. I've gotten to know these ladies quite well, and I'm telling you, you guys are in for a treat. So we're going to start with the bigger picture. This is now infrastructure at a global scale, as you all know. We want to understand why cloud, and we want to know what responsibility comes with this global infrastructure that we build out. Noel, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, no, thank you. Scale. So within Microsoft, in the last 18 months, we built more capacity than the first 15 years of Azure Cloud. So that is the scale and the pace. And I think what matters more is what that enables and how we do it. So when I look back, Azure was founded in 2008. So that's less than 20 years ago when you think about it. And today hosts about 90% of Fortune 500. I would say the first there was great steady demand in the early years, and the first real uptick was during COVID, when some enterprises went through digital transformation within months, what previously took them years. And the next uptick was when ChatGPT was launched at the end of 2022, the success of which we had not seen coming. And we are still going through that enormous growth today. And then why does it matter? I think it matters for what it enables. We forget sometimes as to why we have data centers, and that is to provide connectivity across the world. And if you think about it, we have online banking, online health, online travel, health, automation of enterprises, etc., and then infused by AI. So bringing those services to the greater communities, and I know you're going to ask about it, how we do that, I think is critical.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nancy.
Outstanding. And what Noelle's pointing out, every single industry relies on what we do for a living, and the technologies that are coming forth, the good things that are happening are because of this. And Rachel, I would like to turn to you, and also from your perspective, what is our responsibility in this, being at the tip of the spear in this fifth industrial revolution?
I think it's an enormous responsibility for everybody in this room, and I think it's something we have to just be really honest about right now. Similar to what Noelle said, I think this year in Meta, we're delivering almost as much as we deliver the entire time we've ever existed. And so the stakes are really different right now in terms of what we're delivering, the scale at which we're delivering it. And similar to what we had said earlier, I think there's a deeply human aspect of this, because we are developing the infrastructure that serves people, that connects people across the world. And just at Meta alone, this is around 4 billion people we're connecting regularly. So what this says to me is, if you pull back, this is a very deeply human issue that we have to take enormous responsibility for in this room, because as we know, every decision we make, every design decision that affects the cooling or the power, every decision we take that makes an impact on the community or has environmental impact, these have a blast radius of just not more than what we're delivering, but the communities around us, the infrastructure we're delivering today and for generations to come. So I think that enormity of that responsibility is on each and every one of us here in this room.
Well put, very well put. What we just covered was how this is changing economies and workforce around the globe, and a lot of it is really going to be we're just at the tip of the iceberg. So the good things are yet to come. A lot of the problems that get created will also be solved by the same technology. So glass is half full here, right? So I do have a second question about leading at scale. Let's see. How about partnerships? Let's talk partnerships and what builds trust, what breaks trust, and how important are partnerships in this industry to do what we have to do? Rachel, how about you?
I can't emphasize how much partnerships really matter in this ecosystem. I think something that's really different about the infrastructure we're delivering today versus previously is that it's entirely different in terms of what we're delivering. The pace, the scale, the dollars associated with this are so incredible. And so in that, partnerships are incredibly key to getting this all done and built, because so many things can go wrong on these projects, right? And it's important to deliver at the scale that we have. You have to have those partners in place with you. So when I look at it in terms of our business partners, this oftentimes says to me like our GCs and the tens of thousands of construction workers who are working on all of our sites each and every day. So we need to have the right partnerships in place to make sure we are delivering the quality standards, the safety standards, and so much. And then on the community side, we need to make sure that we are living and breathing and part of these communities. Something that Meta has always sort of embedded in itself is the community aspect. How can we bring good partnerships to the communities that we're in? How can we do this not only in our own side, but the broader ecosystem? It's a shared ecosystem of shared accountability, and I think that's what we need to deliver at this scale. So for me, it's about partnerships, it's about trust, and there's a whole lot in terms of trust, in terms of how do you build that in these communities and being consistent and very transparent. So it's something that we have to do to align together to develop at this scale, and I think it's something that's so critical for us right now at this point in time.
Yes, no, just to build on what you're saying, I fully support that. Partnerships and trust. I see, for us, trust starts with our customers who trust us to deliver, data center cloud capacity reliably and securely. So, and 24/7. Totally agree. We can only grow at this pace through partnerships across the ecosystem and how we grow the ecosystem together. And I think for partnerships, it starts with reliable delivery, but I think that's minimum stakes. To get to true strategic partnerships in this ever-changing world, it's also about agility, mutual transparency, I think, and co-innovating together in this ever-changing world. And then the trust that we extend to the communities and they to us are essential. And I think it's quite healthy that they hold us to a high bar and will demand that we grow in a responsible way.
Well, and so you guys both touched on a very important topic that's on everyone's mind, and that is, some of the resistance we're getting from an industry that was nobody knew what a data center was to now everybody doesn't want a data center next door, right? So my question is, understanding the importance of those partnerships and the community involvement, what are some of the how-tos? What are some of the things that are being done? And what can the audience take away that they can also help us with on that?
Yeah, I think the how-to is critical in this moment in time. And I think building on what we've already developed today and across community. So how we build is important, how we operate is important. And I think we're generally liked in the communities in which we operate. So we've taken it very seriously, and I can give examples. But my aha is where we do not operate and people do not have an understanding of what we do and how we do it, that's where the issues arise. So we've got to be a lot more proactive in communication, in transparency, letting people know what our commitments are and allowing them hold us accountable to them. And I can give, one local example, if that's okay, because we celebrated last week 20 years at our local data center in Washington State in Quincy. So it was one of our first data centers where we would have started construction about 20 years ago. And going back there for a small street celebration, it was good to reflect on the thousands of jobs created during construction, and we're still growing. And we have 400 direct employees there, and their salaries are about 1.6 times the regional average. And from every employee we have, it has spurred 2 additional jobs in the community. We've contributed last year up to about 15% to the local property tax. So it was lovely to see the new high school and hospitals being built. And in that part of the country, it's so north and a bit grey, we do cool the servers with air, which means in some parts of when it's very warm, we do infuse that with water. But we've also invested $30 million in a municipal water recycling system. So all in, it has been positive. And maybe the aha is we don't tell those stories enough. It's where we don't exist that, people, develop ideas as to how we operate. So I think keeping to those commitments and then spreading the word is important.
Spreading the word. Yes, spread the word. Everybody. Rachel.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with these points. I think there's a few additional ones I want to hit on. So one, we talked a little bit about transparency. And so when I think about trust in these communities, it's about being consistent. It's about being transparent and following through. And so I think transparency in this is so critical because when you go in with a mindset of developing a community partnership, we will go in from day one with the openness of telling the community, here's what we're building, here's what we're designing to, here's what we're consuming out of the community, here's what we're going to do to invest in your community. And then beyond that, we've been reporting on our water usage and our power usage by region every year for many years now. And I think that goes a long way in creating the trust with the communities that you're in, that you say, we have nothing to hide here, and yet we want to do it in partnership with you. So if you break this down even further, I think it comes to 2 main things. So how do we create lasting value? How do you go into these communities with the mindset of, I want to come in and I want to create value? This means hiring locally. It means developing economic growth in the communities. It means giving back. And essentially leaving the communities better than you found them. I think that's just a mindset shift beyond like, hey, we're going to just extract everything we need to be able to operate here. It's doing it in partnership because these are 20+ years investments. We're going to be there for the long haul. The other thing I would say, and this has gotten a lot of headlines lately, is how do you pay your own way? You got to pay your own way. You were not ever passing on infrastructure costs to the residents nearby. It's been a long-standing value, and I think this is stuff that's just not told in the headlines. You get all the other headlines. But I know Meta and Microsoft have been doing this for a long time. A couple of our local examples, often we will go in and we will upgrade the local water infrastructure. We're oftentimes in rural areas that don't have a lot of good infrastructure. In Idaho, for example, we spend over $70 million just upgrading the water systems for our use and the community's use. And then in Louisiana, where we have a very big project, the utility there has said that we're actually going to be passing on over $2.5 billion in savings to the residents there just by our infrastructure coming in. So unfortunately, to what Noelle said, these are the narratives that are not often told.
Yeah.
But we're actually doing a lot in these locations to be able to upgrade, and I think that's something that's so meaningful right now.
So this is a fantastic conversation, and I want you guys to think about this as an aha moment. I was just talking with Dean Nelson yesterday about this spontaneous awareness around the good of data centers and, and the necessity of it, the necessity to keep the pace up. What other industry sector do we know that has this mindset? I mean, if you build, office buildings, hospitals, schools, things like that, which are all happening, even airports. Who hasn't flown into an airport that's under construction? I mean, they're all under construction, right? This is all infrastructure. But you don't see them making the efforts that we are now trying to make and desperately need to make to really be transparent and be a part of that community so that we can continue with this super critical pace of building out this infrastructure so that every industry can take advantage of that and so that we can really offer the opportunities of the data that's available and the technology to 8 billion people on the planet. So think about what can we do to make this more of a spontaneous awareness in a positive light, and then do it responsibly. So great comments and good examples too. So one of the other things I wanted to bring up was the constraints that you guys both have constraints. I mean, we all have, and it's really the top ones are power and water right now. So what are we doing about that?
Yes, I mean, with this, I would say exponential growth, there's bound to be some constraints. And I see us collectively solving those as we go. You talk about power. People are worried about lack of power. But if we work proactively enough with utility providers and grid providers, they will grow in advance of us coming to town. And we have pledged as hyperscalers in the US, we have our Community First AI pledge in that, our data centers will not increase your power prices. So we will pay our own way. So be it through utility providers and in sometimes purpose-built power plants that we will invest in with, and it could be new technology, it could be gas technology, there could be nuclear, there's a lot of new technologies out there. So there are solutions, necessity is the motherhood of invention, they say. There are solutions to creating more power. I think with water and with AI, our new AI designs do not use water. Also because the intensity of those chips require a different cooling system, so we won't use water. So what I'm most worried about actually is labor. I think in some ways it's cool that infrastructure is cool again. Mechanical, electrical engineers, civil, architecture, electricians, pipe fitters, data center technicians. So I do worry that we can train enough people for that growth going forward. And that's part of the opportunity and the challenge.
Noelle's always one step ahead of me. That's the next question. Rachel.
Yes. So, of course, water and power are just critical to being able to scale in the way that we want to scale. And so A little bit similar to, I think, what Microsoft's doing. We're really thinking about energy in terms of a portfolio of investments, which is different from, I think, how we've historically thought about some of this. So in terms of portfolio, I mean, we're continuing to invest in some of the same things that we've been investing in. 25 alone, in 2025, we had over 10 gigawatts of investment in clean and renewable energy. We invested over 7 gigawatts in nuclear energy. So this is what's here and what's going to deliver. And then we're thinking about the longer term. You know, how do we invest in new technologies, long duration energy storage? We actually all just recently announced an investment in space solar. I mean, there's a bunch of other things that we're doing here over the longer term to protect the energy development of what Meta needs, but also what the country needs in a lot of ways. And so that's something that we are really focused on. From a water standpoint, we are really focused on developing new water cooling technology, which minimizes our water usage, and really thinking about how do we minimize altogether the amount of water we're using. Water is a very local issue. It's something that is challenging in many jurisdictions, and we want to make sure that we are restoring more water than we actually consume in a lot of these areas. So it's multidimensional, but it's really kind of taking a longer-term view, and I think taking this portfolio aspect of how do we do this, not just for our good, but for the greater good of those around us.
Because, I mean, geography matters and
Yeah.
all of those things. And it's not going to be just one or the other, thing that we do. It's going to be all of it.
Yep.
It's all got to happen. So on the mother of invention and innovation is necessity topic and workforce. I also want to posit a good question on this industry and how amazing it is that the construction industry itself, the whole ecosystem of the AEC industry is going to change for the better because of the necessity of building out this infrastructure. And I'm super excited about that. So let's think about technologies that you all are responsible for, whether it's off-site manufacturing, whether it's reclaimed heat and pressure, whether it's doing innovative things so that we take care of our planet, right? All of those things are going to take this entire industry with them. And I'd like to hear some comments about that.
Yeah, I can start there. I love how you talk about renewables, and that's part of what we do as well, with 40 gigawatts secured, of which 20 gigawatt are live on the grids delivering power today. But beyond that, the technology around the chip itself, if you think the rate of chip advancement today, it's taking months, what previously would have taken years. And those chip advancements are forcing us to upgrade and rethink our data center infrastructure and how to keep pace, be it through new cooling techniques, minimizing water, cooling to the chip level, how we use power, forms of power, the materials of construction that we use. The application of AI to find new coolants is something that we're working on, and it can take, I think it took us about 200 hours to find a new type of coolant, which traditionally could have taken a couple of years. So the pace is fast, and I totally agree with, as you talked about modularization, skidding, rethinking construction, that it become more of a manufacturing production line versus I design and you build. We're going to have to do it together.
We want to bring people into the new collar age.
New collar workforce. I agree. And then waste heat treatment, for me, it's fascinating in Denmark and then in Finland, where, we have district heating close by. And one of our areas, we are so close to an apartment block that they love us because they can use our off-gas, like low-quality grade heat to heat their homes. And in Helsinki, it will be enough to take a coal-fired power plant out of operation.
I love that.
So again, it's not one size fits all. Some prefer that we be far away, in which case it doesn't make sense to transport the heat. And in other cases, they like to have us close by.
Yeah, just going back to the jobs aspect, because I think this is so critical. That is the major thing that is really constraining us, at least in the US. I mean, on our job sites today, we are actively delayed because we just don't have enough workforce there. And so this is one where I think it's a huge opportunity for us to lean into at this moment, because the demands are only going to increase. And I say it's a huge opportunity because we have the ability right now to transform how these jobs are sort of created and to create career pathways that did not even exist a few years ago, which I think is so incredibly interesting. These are good jobs, and one quick example here is that we are seeing just such an uptick in the amount of fiber technicians needed because of the AI demands. And so we recently announced a program to train fiber technicians. It's a quick training program. It's 4 weeks. We will fly people in, we will train them 4 weeks, and then we're going to guarantee them a job on one of Meta's data center sites. And that's so incredible because it's a short investment, like I said, but it has this ability to transform jobs and how we think about economic mobility of these jobs in the data centers. And so we've had just tremendous demand for this program, and I think there's a lot more for us to uncover here as we think about scale in the industry, as we think about the long-term, what do we bring to these communities? There's a lot in this jobs aspect that I think is going to be very important for us as an industry to make sure that we push on.
Yeah, we hit on all the triggers. Noelle touched on it. It's, the different products, product selection, the design decisions we make, the means and methods and how we go about building these, and also the use of technology. Those are the 4 areas of impact that all of you can take part in and help bring our industry into the future in a very positive way. And I'm very excited about the future. I would love some closing comments on, and I kind of want to posit a question. If we knew 25 years ago what we know today, what would we do? What would we have done differently? Or what do we want to do going forward? I guess that's my question.
Based on that and some of what Rachel was saying, I mean, this is a new industry. It's a new revolution, and it is spurring GDP growth and jobs. I mean, how powerful is that? And then to have, this industry do it in a responsible way and be open and transparent in how we do that. Having the tools and capabilities available to the billions across the world, and then creating jobs in a responsible way and using, our planet's scarce resources in a responsible way is such a, I think, responsibility and privilege. And I have to pinch myself when I think as Microsoft, we plan to spend about $190 billion this year. I think in prior ages, that probably would have been governments making those kind of investments in new technologies. And now we have companies with that capability and commitment and wanting to do it the right way. So yes, I think it's critical that we do it right for the next 5, 10, 25 years. We're here to stay. And personally, I don't think we'll understand what we're going through until we look back in 10 years' time.
No, just to add on to that, I mean, I think it's, for people who've been in the industry a long time, I think a lot of us look back and go, gosh, we would have never expected some of this to happen and the way it's happening. And I think we're at a major inflection point in the industry, and we can all see that. It's incredible how things are evolving so quickly, because even 3 years ago, it looks completely different than what it does now. And in fact, one of Meta's standard builds used to be 150 megawatts, which is still big. But now we're at gigawatt scale all of a sudden, and we're in this place that nobody's actually ever seen before. So I think it's a moment of action for all of us. And I think something that we could, looking back, that maybe we could have done looking forward, as we look at this significant responsibility we have. And we as an industry have an opportunity to really define what good looks like and change the narrative and be on that front foot. And this is not about limiting competition. It's about collective credibility for the industry and the narrative that we have to divide and how we define ourselves. And I think this is the moment that we're in right now. So how can we be good partners? How can we be good community members? It really comes down to self-regulating and figuring out how we can lead on this narrative. So again, I think where we started, the responsibility is enormous on the folks in this room, but I do feel like this is a call to action. We have the opportunity to really step into this and lead what we think that defines the industry at this point, because of the ramifications of all those decisions you talked about.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've been in the built environment for many, many years, and there's not a single client that I've built for that doesn't use data, apply data, transact with data, need data. So we're going to leave this with these wonderful closing comments, and keep in mind that it's incumbent upon us to take this industry into the future in a responsible way. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.